var. Çok teşekkür ederiz katılımlarınız için. Bugünkü konumuz biraz daha teknik bir konu ama çok kritik bir konu, çok önemli bir konu. Çok değerli katılımcılar sizlere özellikle dijital ortamda bizi bekleyen sorunların ne olduklarını ve onlarla ilgili çözümlerin neler olabileceğini aktarmak üzere buraya geldiler. Dolayısıyla hepinizden ricam lütfen hakikaten can kulağıyla dinleyin. Çok önemli açıklamalarda bulunacaklar. Fakat bütün konuşmacılarımız yurt dışından geldiği için müsaadenizle ben panelin bundan sonrasını İngilizce olarak devam etmek istiyorum. So, good morning and welcome to you all. Yesterday we were discussing about the transport corridors and the dynamics of change, both in the commerce and as well as the logistics. Global trade is increasingly reliant on three major issues. One of them is efficiency, the other one is transparency, and the interoperable data exchange. Data exchange including along the multimodal digital economic and trade corridors. The problem the traders, the freight forwarders, logistics service providers, and various other stakeholders facing is the fragmentation in digitalization efforts across all transport modes, jurisdictions, international legal regimes, software syntaxes. I think I have to probably give a little bit explanation about what is the syntax. Syntax refers to the rules that define, because you are going to hear this throughout this session quite often, that the syntax refers to the rules that define the structure of a language. Syntax in computer programming means the rules that control the structure of the symbols, punctuation, and words of a programming language. To make it a little bit clearer, I will go a few words in Turkish, that bir program dilinin sembollerinin, noktalama işaretlerinin, sözcüklerinin yapısını kontrol eden kurallar bütünü anlamına geliyor. Syntax dediğimiz zaman. Kusura bakmayın lütfen. This is an important obstacle against seamless logistics for many years, even more than decades. The United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE, and its subsidiary, the United Center for Trade Facilitation and Electronic Business, so-called CEFACT, have responded to develop a standardized multimodal approach to digitize the data and the document exchange using CEFACT semantic standards. I will also make a mention on the semantic standards. Anlamla ilgili olan ve birbiriyle bağlantılı diye tanımlıyoruz semantic standards. Ve bunun, from that point of view, they have created the family of reference data models, notably the Multimodal Transport Reference Data Model, MMT-RDM. This is going to be the subject of this panel. Representation from United Nations, standard setting experts and implementers of digitalization of data and document exchange is participating in this session. The objective is that the representatives of the government agencies from Turkey and the business community, all of us, should involve in these standards and adapt them into our transport operations and supply chains. The UN CEFACT standards and the multimodal transport reference data model are used in the implementation of European Union's Electronic Freight Transport Information Regulation, EFTI, and the Trans-Caspian roadmap on the digitalization of multimodal data and document exchange. So I would like to introduce our distinguished panelists. Mr. Apostolov represents the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE. He provides advisory support for the trade sub-program of UNECE with a focus on supporting the transition economies in trade facilitation and the United Nations Special Program for the Economies of Central Asia, SPECA. He has been serving in intergovernmental bodies of experts and policymakers and regional cooperation networks in trade facilitation, digitalization, and sustainable trade in Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and in Central Asia for over 20 years. So he is with us with the vast experience and knowledge. He has expertise in trade facilitation, the single window, regional trade integration, the World Trade Organization, Trade Facilitation Agreement, and the digitalization of the multimodal transport and document exchange using the standard of the United Nations, which is CEFACT. He was instrumental in drafting the roadmap for the digitalization of multimodal data and document exchange along the Trans-Caspian corridor using UN legal instruments and standards. He holds a PhD from University of Geneva. We have also Michael with us, Michael Dill, a UN CEFACT expert for around 40 years. Represents the standard-setting community on trade facilitation and electronic business. He holds a degree in economics and has a passion for trade facilitation and electronic business standards. Michael joined UNECE in 1990 and a member of German standardization body, DIN, and the ISO Technical Committee TC1504, which covers standard for trade facilitation and e-business. We have also Mr. Zakariyya Vakilov, hoş geldiniz, from Azerbaijan. Zakariyya is an IT business analyst and project manager at the port of Baku, at the heart of Middle Corridor, specializing in digital transformation and system integration with port operations. He has worked on the implementation of the port management information systems, the optimization of the operational workflows, and the integration with external systems, including automated data exchange with Azerbaijan railways, customs authorities, and regional ports such as the port of Aktau, supporting enhanced coordination in multimodal and cross-border logistics. And we have Dr. Inessa Platonova, PhD in public administration with over 15 years of experience in international trade, logistics, and supply chain management. Currently, she is working with me in FIATA, Chair of Managing Committee of FIATA Foundation, Head of Development Project in Trans, good, Association of Transport and Freight Forwarding and Logistics Organization in Ukraine. She is also Vice President of ICC Ukraine and Vice President of PLASKE. Inessa is actively involved in shaping initiatives that support the integration of Ukrainian business into the global economy, even in these difficult days, advocating for transport and efficient trade practices and fostering international cooperation. As a company, PLASKE, they take an active position in implementation of innovative technologies, training, exchange of experience, connecting the capabilities of the participants in logistics supply chains, participating in pilot projects with the support of the UNECE, FIATA, and OSGE. So quite good mix of panelists, and I cannot wait to listen to what our panelists will tell us about the CEFACT. So Mario, maybe we can start with you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Erkeskin, Mr. Kutmas, for hosting us with you here at this very professional audience. We are, as Mr. Erkeskin presented us, we are working from different aspects on the digitalization of multimodal data and document exchange. I work for the UN organizing projects. Mr. Michael Dill represents the standard setters community. This is a big group of people in various organizations, but the CEFACT is a subsidiary body of the United Nations Commission for Europe, and it brings together about 1,500 experts who work on these issues, on trade facilitation and electronic business. So I will cover this particular aspect of multimodal data exchange, and the two other panelists, they are working on the implementation, like implementation projects, and they will show how the standards can be used in practical projects. So this is the concept of our panel, which Mr. Erkeskin just presented. The idea is that there is a problem. Mr. Erkeskin already mentioned it. The problem is the fragmentation of digitalization projects. Many people are doing digitalization projects, but they are not interoperable with one another. There are different legal regimes, different conventions, different national, regional regimes, which should be dealt with. Yesterday, people were talking about consignment notes, the SMGS railway consignment note. It's under the agreement of the OSGD, Organization for Cooperation of Railways in Warsaw. There is the other one, CIN, which is used in Turkey, which is managed by the organization CIT in Bern. There are other attempts to create, for example, the Unified Railway Law, which the Transport Division in UNECE is dealing with. I personally, I work as the regional advisor in the Trade Division. So we are more talking about trade facilitation, and the concept of trade facilitation of UNECE and CEFACT is to take it along the whole supply chain. All the stakeholders, all the information exchange, because the goods are the same. The goods are the same from the beginning to the end, no matter whether the data about them is filled in commercial documents like invoices, certificates, or trade and transport documents accompanying goods like consignment notes, bills of lading, or in payment documents. The goods are the same. So what we are doing is to try to make the same language used all over. So the objective is a fast, reliable, and profitable journey for the goods to move faster. And the problem I just mentioned is the fragmentation. For example, the transport corridor that was mentioned yesterday as the middle corridor, we call it the Trans-Caspian corridor. There is land, sea, land, sea, land. The modes of transport are changing, trucks, rail, ships, and the information has to be re-entered several times in different systems. So what would be the solution? From the perspective of the UN, the idea is to use the same standards, meaning basically business requirement specifications, and with them go something that the experts call artifacts, which are the data sets, data structures, codes, and schemas. And my colleague Michael will talk in more details about these things. So the idea is, okay, there is a problem, but let's focus on the opportunities. Opportunities of using these common language, the common standards to advance this work. This slide may be a bit complicated, you don't need to read everything, but these were the documents for which standards were prepared. The business requirement specifications and the data sets, data structures, codes and schemas, and all of them are taken from a general pool. Like, there are logistics documents, there are documents accompanying goods on the right side, and I'm quite happy to mention that from the very beginning, the first ones who caught from the business perspective the usefulness of this multimodal perspective were the freight forwarders, and thanks to our cooperation with the then president of FIATA, Mr. Ivan Petrov, and we are continuing that work now with you, Mr. Erkeskin. We started working on using the CEFACT standards for the FIATA multimodal bill of lading. And the idea is to go further with more documents. The whole idea is not that these standards are some magic bullet. They create the possibility of exchange of data, seamless exchange of data between different modes of transport. And further in the supply chain with, between the different segments of the supply chain. So this is the, this was the initial idea. I hope we can continue further with further FIATA documents. Mr. Erkeskin already mentioned the idea that the information exchange for multimodal transport and for the whole supply chain is based on certain directories, and what I'm showing here is the idea of the family of reference data models. Okay, first of all, there are the general data, data directories which contain all the data for everything in the supply chain. There is the so-called core components library, which has been developed the last decades. It's a living standard using input from business when to create and fill in all the data which is used in the exchange of information in the supply chain. On that basis, a so-called by ship pay reference data model is created. It's like an umbrella covering all the different elements in the supply chain. And in December last year, that by ship pay reference data model, the umbrella one, was adopted as an ISO standard, and I have given the number there. So from that big reference data model, there are subsets for the different areas. I have put 3 here, but there are more. Like, there is one for the commercial documents, invoices, certificates, and others. I have listed them there. In the middle is the one we are talking mostly about. It's the multimodal transport reference data model, which is the basis for like all the elements for the consignment notes, bills of lading, and additional documents in the 5 modes of transport. And to the right is a reference data model which serves as a link to the regulatory systems. Like you know probably that the World Customs Organization developed its own data model. I'm actually participated in the development. And but the link from the business documents, the business data, to the regulatory data models and IT systems is done through this cross-border reference data model. So this is the second level of subsets, and then if one wants to create a concrete electronic version of a document, like the road consignment node, CMR, or a railway consignment node, or a maritime bill of lading, or a manifest, one simply can use the data from the multimodal transport reference data model. Again, these are living standards. There may be requirements which are not in the model. So it's normally there is an exchange between the implementers and the standard setters through the mechanism of CEFACT, which is called the open development process. And what is the advantage of all that? If you create a document, be it like an electronic version of a document, be it a commercial document or transport or payment document or some regulatory document, the data can seamlessly flow between one mode of transport, between one document to another document, because of all this link, overall link with the data, with the reference data models. This is the essence of this slide. By following, like mapping the data in the document that you want to create, let's say railways, creating a railway consignment note to be used in a region. And we have a concrete project in the Trans-Caspian corridor with the railway agencies of Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Turkey, and Ukraine, using the so-called CIM SMGS combined consignment mode in electronic mode. And we have done pilot project like with 2 tests of an XML schema and a JSON schema, and the project goes on. We do it together with Trasica. So another part of this work. Let me just make a little footnote here. In the meanwhile, the European Commission adopted the so-called Electronic Freight Transport Information Regulation, FT, which was adopted in 2020 and has to be implemented by the end of 2026. And they organized a public-private digital transport and logistics forum, which made a recommendation that the European Union should not invent the wheel. They should use the standards of CEFACT to implement that regulation. So already in the European Union, the CEFACT standards are used in the implementation of this FT regulation. And the FT regulation says basically 2 things. One of them is kind of all information inside the European Union by the end of 2026 should be multimodal and electronic. And if government agencies are obliged to accept data on goods, in documents accompanying goods from business if they are in standard format. Business can do what they want, but government agencies are obliged to accept documents if they are following the standards. Again, Michal Dill will talk more about that. So what we did, on the other hand, in the Central Asia and the Trans-Caspian corridor, the governments asked us to prepare a roadmap, and when the SPECA presidents gathered on the 24th of November 2023 in Baku, they adopted that roadmap. Part of it is on the implementation of the UN CEFACT standards, and we are doing pilot projects, for example, this pilot project on the railways, and a pilot project on port-to-port data exchange in the Caspian. And there are also projects which are managed by our colleagues from the Transport Division on e-tier, and also on ECMR. We are more and more promoting the idea of a digital corridor using the UN CEFACT standards. UN CEFACT defines a digital corridor as an electronic environment that connects multiple entities to share the status of business activities and relevant information in different locations along the trade route. Well, the benefits are obvious. Like if there is a standardized exchange of information, the submission of data is more secure, with less mistakes, simpler, faster, and the goods cannot move faster than the information about them. Like the information has to go to the business partners and to the regulatory agencies. So the idea is to, like on this slide, I'm giving a bit my the concept of a digital corridor. Well, on a multimodal corridor, there are several layers. Like yesterday, people were talking a lot about the infrastructure, interconnectivity, interoperability. So this slide is about interoperability. You have interoperability of infrastructure in ports, like railways, trucks, and well, the symbol of interoperability in the infrastructure is the containerization. So the middle level is the legal interoperability. Conventions are model, like road, rail. The new thing is this FTA regulation in the European Union, which is multimodal. And we are talking, on our side, we are talking about what I put on the top of this slide, data exchange. So if the data in the different consignment nodes, bills of lading is mapped to the multimodal transport reference data model of CEFACT that I just showed, then you create a common playing field, and this top layer becomes something like a low-hanging fruit for digitalization of digital corridors. So this is what we are promoting, and that includes like documents accompanying goods. The CEFACT experts are working a lot on dangerous goods declarations. Well, this slide is just a continuation of the previous in a way, because like if we there is something like a data pipeline built on the mapping to the CEFACT UN standards, you can create the possibility of fast movement of the data, and that data can service the different model legal instruments, like the conventions in road, rail, maritime, air, for an exchange of data. Well, here this is a schematic presentation of the Trans-Caspian corridor, or middle corridor, which would be possible to do if there is an alignment of the data, and this is what we are trying to work on. Just several points, like on the data pipeline concept, it's quite known already. There were people who were working on big projects on that. There was one of the CEFACT experts who was working on, well, they published a book after a project called Cassandra on the data pipeline. Also, big shipping agencies, Maersk, created a project together with IBM called Trade Lens. Maybe many of you know about it. And the essence was exactly a data pipeline. But the point is that if it is managed by business, the other businesses wouldn't be very eager to share their data, their business data, with a competitor in a way. So I'm just saying this to make the point that it makes sense to base that exchange of data on UN standards, make it decentralized, in order not to have these risks of having accusations why a business entity is managing that and taking our data. So on this slide I'm showing something that Michael will work further. This slide shows the data structure of the CIM SMGS railway consignment node, on which we are working with several railways, including Turkish railways. And the idea is that if that data structure is aligned with the CEFACT standards, there is a possibility that the data is exchanged with another mode of transport, and up on the right-hand side I have put the structure of the ECMR. So data can be exchanged between the consignment nodes in railway and in road transport. There are big issues, of course, like for example the structure is based on different bases, like the wagon in the railways and the consignment or container on road, but these are things that would be addressed. So this is my last slide, and it comes from our cooperation with this project on railways. And just bear in mind, the idea is that we are doing the pilot projects on different modes of transport, not just separate projects for the railway consignment node, for the road consignment node, but to have the perspective of multimodal data exchange, seamless data exchange among the data. So this was, like, I'm just describing a bit the project, and Zakariyya will talk a bit more about it. On the left side, the idea is also to use, to exchange the data between different formats in which the data on railway carriage of goods is presented. There is the EDIFACT messages, and in the former Soviet Union, like there is a big project called Intertran, led by Russian Railways, on the exchange of data using the EDIFACT message if-twin. EDIFACT is the previous generation of CEFACT standards, which is still very much in use. And also, like now, we are moving more to the age of exchange of data using the internet in XML, JSON schemas. In what our consultant from Azerbaijan, from Baku did, he took the railway consignment node, the CIM SMGS consignment node, to the upper right, and prepared an XML schema, which was then tested. There is much more detail that we can go further, but I will finish on this. And next will be Michael will go further into the details.
Yeah, Mario, thank you very much. So, I think you made it very clear. But still, I would like to probably summarize a little bit what I have understood and what should be done probably. Now, we are always talking about this interoperability, data exchange, one entry, and then throughout the logistics chain or supply chain that data is transferred to the other stakeholders that are in need of that data. So, while talking about this, we are just talking about kind of a wishful thinking. We don't know, as logisticians or trade companies, how to do it. Okay. So, I think the idea behind is to create that common language that systems can talk to each other and exchange the data in between. So CEFACT is delivering this to us, that they are the data models for that interoperability and seamless data exchange. If that is the case, then there are, as you have put, three main bodies or three main avenues, if you like. One of them is the commerce, which are traders who issue their commercial invoices, certificate of origin, packing list, and so on and so forth. Which then partly exchange with us, enabling us to create the transport documents. And then both the commercial and transport documents are used in cross-border operations, mainly for the customs purposes. So in order these three bodies to communicate their data without any problem in exchange, we have this CEFACT. Is that right?
Yes, and also not only these three entities, but also between the different modes of transport. And here we are focusing on this particular thing.
So then, now, when this is the case, I think, from Turkey perspective, we were discussing about this European Union's Electronic Freight Transport Information Regulation. So, EFTI. EFTI is using now CEFACT. So, Turkey being in the negotiations with European Union, most everything in Turkey is based on European regulations. So we can, I don't know, but we can assume, I don't know if we have, if we are using this CEFACT, but if we don't, I'm sure the government or the ministry will take that.
Optimist?
Optimist, okay. Or we will just try to convince them. If that is the case, okay. And on the other side, I am proud to say that FIATA bill of lading is now based on CEFACT data model. And then ITER and ECMR is also based on this. So actually from the logistician's point of view, we are kind of compliant or using CEFACT data models in documents that we are, unless we are using our own bill of lading, which is based on different data models. So actually we give the opportunity to our logistics friends documents based on CEFACT, enabling them to be in this data exchange in a seamless world. So the lesson we should take from that session probably would be going to Ankara and talk to authorities and convince them to implement CEFACT data model in the Turkish area, because you are taking part in the Trans-Caspian corridor. So you are working with the governments and then service providers. What Baku is going to explain. I just need you to, maybe correct me if I'm wrong or if we are in the right direction, because, for us, the logisticians and the commercial people, these technical details would be a little bit out of our world. I think, for instance, in my company, we have our own bill of lading, our company bill of lading. I don't know what is the data model that we are using, or maybe tomorrow I have to switch to FIATA bill of lading.
Yes, many thanks.
So, many thanks for leading to this idea why we are doing this work. Because, first of all, there are systems which exist. They are there. And we are not proposing a new document or something like that which will be multimodal, etc. Just the opposite. The idea is to link the existing systems in whatever is done, like the existing standards, for example, the IATA airway bill. They exist, they have put millions into those standards. The point is mapping the data to the multimodal transport reference data model and creating a link. It's a common language linking everybody and linking all the documents along the supply chain. And we are talking here primarily about the documents accompanying goods, like the bills of lading, the consignment notes, and additional documents. And this is exactly what you made the point. When your company's IT engineers are creating an electronic document to be used, the idea is to map it, to map the data to the multimodal transport reference data model in order to create this multimodal possibility of data exchange. This is what we are preaching. We are not preaching for a new multimodal document along the corridor, etc.
I understand. So
this is what we are trying to make clear. Like even I mentioned this project, the Trade Lens project of IBM and Maersk. They were using the multimodal transport reference data model as the reference data model to create the name of those reference data models is what they are. They are a reference which IT specialists who create your documents may take into account in order to create this multimodal interoperability.
Let me do a little bit marketing.
Sorry?
Let me do a little bit marketing rather than asking my IT guys to use this data reference model. I can simply ask them to implement FIATA bill of lading into our system and start using it.
Good.
A simple message. Okay, thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. Let's see what Mike has to tell us. Mike?
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Who of you understands either in Turkish or in English what I'm talking about? Yes, who understands? Who speaks English? Okay, great. First question to you. You are representing the transport and logistic industry. What is the increase of the national income of Turkey this year? Who knows?
Increase of national income. Is that right?
No? Okay, 3.1. What is the increase in Germany? 0 or minus something? Nothing. So that means I'm in front of the biggest engine of economy in the whole region. And Turkey, on the one hand the people, on the other hand the economy, is much better. Your contribution to this is big. So therefore, my expectation is that you are spending the money. It's your business. And I want to show you how these boring standards are linked with income. Maybe it works, maybe not. So what you see in front of you is a nice picture. I called it the tsunami of regulations. It's from my friend from BASF. It's not mine, that's why I give the credit to him here. How many regulations you have in the Turkish, from the Turkish government regarding transport? How much control exists? Little, medium, a lot. A lot. A lot. So, how many regulations do we have regarding the control of transport in the European Union? More or less than in Turkey? More. Yeah. As what we counted is in the area of transport documentation, 167 in the member states, plus a few, maybe 6 or whatever, on the level of the European Commission. That means, very important lesson, the member states have to say. If you want to go to Romania and they torture you with additional data requests, they are entitled to do so. The Commission is not allowed to forbid them to ask for. But the Commission had a clever idea, and this is when you can go to the next slide, please. They created a regulation that limits the data hunger of the member states regarding transport regulation. And this is your money. This is your chance. As mentioned by your president, he said, what is this animal FD? Can I eat it? How it is moving? What does it help us? Or is this an additional burden? So, technically, it's an implementation of the UN CEFACT multimodal data model. Okay, good. Transport. So, politically, it's an expression of the will of the European Union to achieve a uniform transport market. And the only way to do this is to get the national legislation on board and try to harmonize them. And the first step to harmonize them is to know what they are doing. And that's why they said, okay, dear member states, we make an electronic decentralized system. You have a say what the content is, we have a say what the format is. And if you want some data from the trade or the transport, which is not in our repository of data, then you are not allowed to ask for them. In other words, there is a power on the hands of the member states. They can decide what they want. But there is a power in the hand of the union, and they say, sorry, the way to present it is you must follow our rules. So it's a balance of power, as you can see. And a very stable things that an approach. And the result is we have one common data set called FTCDS, common data set, and we have for the time being, around about 200 national subsidies. And so if Germany decides to ask for dangerous goods exceptions, exception code number 12354, you don't have to beat the following regulation, is their decision. No chance for the Commission, and I work for the Commission, to change this. Simple. Understood? Next is that the European Union also signed in partially the same international convention as Turkey. For instance, the CEFACT Convention or all this dangerous goods stuff. So that means we have FTAs covering dangerous goods, cabotage, which is of tremendous importance for all of your trucks, literally of tremendous importance when we look at the fines. It covers waste, it covers combined transport, it covers air consignment security declaration. So in principle, and if the government of Bulgaria decides that the maritime bill of lading has to be on board of a truck when going to the maritime port, then this is also part. In fact, we sit in the problem that we have to cover all modes of transport, except pipelines. Yeah, pipelines and drones may come later. So that means here, many of the work that we have done is reusable by you because you have to do it anyway. In the one way or the other. And this is also the great basis for a collaboration between the European Union side and the Turkish and the whole region. Because, of course, it was a big achievement to implement NCTS in Turkey. It replaced the ETIR, in fact. And this process is continuing. So that means there is definitely, considering the economic potential of Turkey and interest from the side of the European Union, I'm not representing them, as it's not, please don't mismatch it, to access data and to get the same level of information as we have with the ICS2. So that's it. And therefore, your job is to map your available data in your companies, in your IT systems, and in your business scenarios to this MMT. If you do it once, you get automatically all the data from the FT, from the maritime simulator, and from other data which are based on this MMT. It's a rationalization of business logics. It's an advantage from your side. So, who should do it? You have the carrier, there's a software provider, but finally, in many cases, the consignor is responsible for the content, even if he delegates to the carrier. So, next slide, please. This was it to make a wake-up call.
Before you go to the next slide, can I ask you one thing in the previous slide?
Yes.
Can we get a little bit?
So, I hope it's not this boring.
No. I'm just wondering. We were talking about documents, data, commercial data. What is the role of the implementation of DG convention? I mean, there are a number of different conventions, but how do you implement this?
Great. Romania is interpreting the same convention differently than Germany. Great. We want to achieve a common market. How to allow member states to interpret the same thing differently? Shit. Bad. What is the slow step? First, get them on board. Then to compare. Then to influence, then to lobby, and my grandchildren maybe will see that there's a common interpretation.
In this case, all the conventions should be implemented. Is it right? Not only dangerous goods.
The convention, I try to imagine what the position of Turkey is. So that means all the conventions that we share, at least. Good. And FT is not about everything. It is about transport documentation.
Correct.
Yeah? And it is not about the training of a driver of dangerous goods. Or about the inspection ways, how to inspect technicalities in a vehicle. Whilst it is very interesting to see which criminal energy exists, in manipulating all these devices. I joined this as a fun, as I really admire these criminals. They are quite creative. We should hire them instead of allowing them to continue their business. So, sorry for this.
Thank you.
Okay? Good. First of all, now back to the standards, MIT is harmonizing stuff. Harmonizing the business concepts. I put a few key buzzwords here. Please give me a definition of a concernor versus a sender. Please come up with a definition of a vehicle versus a unit load device. And then you realize suddenly that all the legislators use their own definitions, their own thinking. And now we have to make something workable which is based on completely different thinking. Yeah, when you talk about dangerous goods, then they say, oh, unit load device. Oh, it's a vehicle, but not for the industry. For the industry, it's just a container. And so on and so forth. The biggest I quoted here an interesting mistake, and it's a nice homework for you. I asked you whether this definition comes from the FDA regulation or the shipment is. And please check it and come back whether this definition is correct. Or, let's say the other way around, why is the legal definition bad? It's wrong. Why is it wrong? Figure this out. Switch on your brain and think of it. We have the same in the Solas Convention for maritime. It's also wrong. But the content is correct. This is a contradiction, and we cannot educate the legislators. And you cannot educate a lawyer. A lawyer cannot understand more than Excel and more than header and item. This is their limit in thinking. At least my lawyer says this to me. Your lawyers, of course, are different. So can we go to the next slide? We have a big challenge in the paradigm. Until now, you give a paper to the document, a PDF, a picture, and the government checks, the authority checks, and says, okay, they switch on their brain. You don't have to do anything. They accept what you provide to them. And now they change and say, no, we don't want to make it. We want to do risk analysis, we want to do automate. Please give us specified data. And suddenly they delegated the problem of thinking to you. This is a change of paradigm. We can also call this, they are rationalizing their business from the government side on your costs. This is a very good approach. We know this by changing from invoice to credit request. It's the same. Delegates the work to the others. So this paradigm results in the third point. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. That we have more data. In the legislation, you have, oh, please indicate the unloading, place of unloading. Please indicate the place of acceptance by the carrier. Fine. That's all. And suddenly, the people in the government became very creative and say, oh, place of unloading. I need an address. Yeah, and I need an identification of a station crew from the railway point of view. And I need, and at the end they turn, and the more they think, the more they need. And then the people come up, for instance, Germany, said, oh, we need geographical location. Then I asked them, hey folks, which one? Which one? In reality, they did not know more than the buzzword. But they said, we need this. At the end, you have different ways to express the same thing. But this is a technicality they did not know, because they're lawyers. Forget it. So, that means we have more data by transcribing from information requirement to data requirement. In this way, more and more data come. This is also a challenge in the paradigm. And the next slide is maybe the last one. Can you skip? Ah, yeah. You get this stuff at home. This is more homework for you. You can figure out whether this structure fits. It pretends to be a bill of lading, and I copied together a tiny little sequence. You see bill of lading, shipment, consignment. Is this correct or not? Please think about it. So, do we have any other slide? I think no. Can you go back? It should be the last one. Can you go back to the first one? To the very first. The first slide. Yes. So, what's that?
Money.
Money. Yes. And I hope you are eager to make money.
No.
No. Thank you.
I'm not.
This is good. If you care about your grandchildren, it's much better. I have to
can.
do this sometimes.
I can.
So, but here you see a lot of paper regulations. I hope that my short presentation gave you a little idea how to replace the paper on the screen with this legal tenders. How to make money out of the requirements for more regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. The tsunami is coming. So we have to be prepared. So I think, thank you. I mean, we will get to the questions and answers. Therefore, you can just take a seat, please. Then I would like to go to our friend from Port of Baku, Zakariyya Vakilov. Maybe he's going to give us some.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of the conference to be able to present on behalf of Azerbaijan, and particularly the Baku International Sea Trade Port, or Port of Baku. I'll try to keep my presentation short with essential information about the level of So to give information about the current state of digitization that takes place at Port of Baku, then the level of integration and information exchange that we have within the country with Customs Authority, Customs Committee, and Azerbaijan Railways operator, and then the port-to-port exchange between Port of Baku and other ports of the Caspian Sea. And then talk about the adoption of CEFACT standards, the reference data models for multimodal transport, the state that we are currently in, and what we expect to achieve, and the benefits that we expect to achieve when we fully implement the standards, and the plans that we have moving forward. So just to give a brief information, the main software that is used at Port of Baku is the Port Management Information System, first developed by DBA Group, an Italian company. It's a big platform that encompasses all the operations, administrative, cargo handling, coordination and tracking procedures happening place in Port of Baku, and connects multiple systems within the port, and is able to exchange the data, transmit the data to outside parties based on the relevance and based on the need. The main core of the system, of the Port Management Information System, is the PCS, the Port Community System, that was developed for Port of Baku. It has borrowed some concepts from the single window, meaning the main concept is to enter the data only once and then use the data, transform it based on the requirements and operations and procedures taking place, and then transmit, disseminate the information to outside parties based on relevance. I'll go then over the integrations. So yeah, apart from the port community system, the port management information system consists of the terminal operating systems, which mainly deal with the handling of cargo. So it allows us to track the status of cargo before the arrival to the port, within the port, and at certain stages after its departure from the port's territory. Now I'd like to give information about the level of exchange that we were able to achieve with parties within the country. The first integration that we did was with Azerbaijan Customs Committee. It's for now a unidirectional integration, meaning the data is transmitted from the customs community to Port of Baku. The data covers tier announcements and cargo announcements carried by tiers when they pass the Azerbaijani-Georgian border and head towards Port of Baku. So in this way, Port of Baku gets the preliminary data about the incoming cargo to prepare the infrastructure, the equipment and the labor force. Next is the integration with Azerbaijan Railways operator. In a similar way to customs committee, it's for now a unidirectional integration. The data is transmitted sent from Azerbaijan Railways to Port of Baku. It's a detailed data on the wagon announcements, the rail cars, mainly platforms carrying containerized cargo, but as well as ro-ro cargo and general cargo as well, like break bulk or dry cargo. So the data is received, stored in the port community system of Port of Baku, transformed into announcements which are then confirmed, creating a visit which is then tracked based on the sequence of steps it takes within the port's territory. Our plan in future is to make the integration with the data exchange with Azerbaijan Railways operator bidirectional, so to transmit the data that we receive from other ports to railways operator in order to plan the wagons, the supply of wagons to the port, and to plan and to better track and coordinate the movements of the wagons. So this integration will cover the transmission of the vessel, the preliminary vessel announcement to Azerbaijan Railways operator for them to know that the vessel is expected to arrive at this exact point in time, the containers that are carried by the vessel to plan the supply of wagons for the unloading of containers on the wagons, and then the movement of the wagon within the territory of the port from the terminal to the shunting yard, maneuvering zone, and then departure from the port to the next stations. Now we come to the main topic, which is a port-to-port data exchange. Right now, we did not yet implement the data exchange with all ports that we are working with. So with two ports from Kazakhstan, Port of Kurik and Port of Aktau, and Port of Turkmenbashi from Turkmenistan. The API integration that we achieved for now has been done between Port of Baku and Port of Aktau. This integration, the data exchange, covers the exchange of vessel announcements. It's bi-directional exchange between Port of Baku and Aktau. So the data transmits and is received for the vessel announcements and detailed information for all containers carried on board of the vessel. So with the other ports, Port of Kurik, for example, we are still exchanging documents and data in an email format, so the bill of lading, the cargo manifest, container lists, ro-ro cargo manifests, all our CMRs and SMGS consignment notes are still exchanged over email because the Port of Kurik still lacks the software solution, which they need to develop first to be able to integrate with Port of Baku and exchange the data. And the same is for Port of Turkmenbashi, although we as Port of Baku expressed our willingness to integrate with Port of Turkmenbashi and provided them the necessary schemas and the reference models and data to integrate, because we have achieved the integration with Port of Aktau, but we are still waiting from Port of Turkmenbashi to move forward and to progress with that. So when using so at this point in time, we are actively testing the data because we have updated our port management information system to the new version, and now we are restoring the integration that we have with Port of Aktau, in the parallel adopting the UN-CEFACT standards. So the works on adopting the UN-CEFACT standards have already begun, and the test of the data exchange has been initiated between the two ports. So what it gives ports, first of all, it's the efficiency, because in future when Port of Kurik and Port of Turkmenbashi will be ready to integrate, it will be much easier to agree all the pieces of data to be exchanged and the documents to be exchanged, because the UN-CEFACT standards gives us the unified semantic concepts for each piece of data, which eliminates ambiguity, gives a standardized way to handle the data and to structure the data, which will be, if adopted by all the actors within the supply chain, much simpler and facilitate the easy integration between the systems, between the software solutions of each party. So what we are doing now is, first of all, we analyze between Port of Baku and Port of Aktau, we analyze the gaps and the requirements that we need for the data exchange. Then we initiated the mapping of each piece of data exchange within the XML messages with Port of Aktau to the structure and models recommended by CEFACT standards, by the reference data models. In future, we plan to use this as a starting point for integration with other actors, with other ports. And not only within the port-to-port exchange, this will facilitate the data exchange not just between the sea freight, but also between multimodal transport. So from sea to rail, from sea to truck, between, to road, and between road and railway. So, as I mentioned, with other ports, because we still don't have the integration, we still rely on manual paperwork, which is not ideal, but using the CEFACT standards in future will actually push the integration forward and make it much easier for us to integrate. And what Marjan mentioned about the interoperability, it will give us the opportunity for all the actors to communicate between each other in a standardized way and to understand each information without any ambiguity. Just a brief information for the current exchange that we have with Port of Aktau, the XML structure, the vessel announcements, and for the message information within the vessel announcements, and with the container as well. So we exchange the data for the expected port terminal, the container dimensions, dangerous cargo information, seal party information as well. And we are mapping this now to UNECE standards, to the recommendations, to the models recommended by the UNECE standards. The benefits will be the compliance for all actors, the reduced processing, so because the manual paperwork will be eliminated in future towards the electronic data exchange, which will facilitate a much easier movement of cargo and reduce the delays that we have with the manual paperwork. And even reduce the manual errors, always inherent with the dealings of the paperwork and the manual user input. Just to give you a brief information about, apart from the port-to-port data exchange, the CIM, the electronic version of CIM SNGS, which was done by UN consultant Orhan Namazov from Azerbaijan. What he has achieved is he has analyzed, they used the UNECE reference data models to map the paper-based CIM SNGS document, consignment note, to the electronic version for each piece of data to be mapped to the data model recommended by UNECE standards. Then develop the XSD schemas and XML structures for other actors, for other parties to be able to use, apply, and to easily accommodate within their own software solutions. And then it's much easier to integrate with the national railway platforms, and created the API adapters which can be used by other parties to easily integrate with the whole sequence. So the pilot testing has been done in Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Georgia, and Ukraine. The first data exchange simulations have been done, then the XML schemas have been developed, and then the national railway platforms have been integrated, and the testing has been successful, which means that in future, adopted by other parties, will facilitate the trade within the Trans-Caspian corridor. That's all. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Zakariyya. As we go and deep dive into thinking, so many questions are coming into my mind. Maybe I can ask, maybe we can just think of it all together now. You told me that the port of Baku is exchanging data with the port of Aktau. Okay. So,
yes,
in the paper world, non-digital world, okay, in the old-fashioned world, if you like, ports if I'm not wrong, are not or were not exchanging data in between. So I don't expect Port of Shanghai to send data to Port of Istanbul.
But Rotterdam.
Okay, just leave it there. So how will this change the roles and responsibilities of the parties in the chain? What if the data that you are transferring from Baku to Aktau is not correct, not complete? Who would be the responsible party? What would be the responsibilities? Because today, the exchange of data is the shipping data, is on the responsibility of the carrier. So then, are we going to remove that responsibility from them and leave it to the ports? Or is this something to be discussed in another panel? From the legal point of view, how the responsibilities will change. So, okay, I mean, data exchange is fine. But now roles and responsibilities are changing. I leave it as it is. We don't need to reply, or we don't need to find the answer right now. Let's go and listen to Inessa, and then maybe we can debate on this issue a little bit more.
Thank you. So it's an honor to be here and to share information. And this is about pilot project that we had in 2022. And actually it could happen, so it started in the August 2022, and it was thanks to United Nations and also supported by Turkey. So because of from February to August, our ports were blocked, and so this will show how it works in the when there was grain corridor from Ukraine to Turkey, and guarantee the safety of this process. But we will talk more about not safety but about data. About probably you're all from logistics and pretty sure that you know about 7R in logistics rule, that right product, right quality, right time, and so on. So, and that concept of CEFACT pipeline. So what's the main idea? To get data from right source, that was telling Turgut Bey, and also at the right place, and then to share it right time, and also to share it with right amount of information. Because, for example, if we're sharing some information, what, for example, bill of lading, and sharing with bank when we need to share to get our money from a letter of credit, so we don't need, we have to share some part, but sometimes we don't need to share all the steps in supply chain. So data should be captured in the right place, in that amount of information that we need for this supply chain. And if to go there next, so all participants in the main business process, they have to be aligned with this data. So it's carrier as grain, how it works. In our case, it's trucks go to the terminal and also wagons. Then we have transshipment in terminal, waiting for vessel, and then transshipment to the vessel. So all these parties, they have to be involved in the process, and the documents should work in the same manner. Sometimes it's not. I will show example. And they have to follow some model. And UNCEFACT model, it's one of the solution for that problem that we can face when we are trying to match different documents and to find the right decision. So, and when we have international standards, also then next part is implementation. And if standards is dark gray and implementation is white color, we can see that implementation can be different. In different projects, you can see sometimes international standards much more information needs than we do in implementation. Also, it can be opposite. And it also can be overlapping that some information meet international standards in local authorities and some no. And so as gray, first of one of the transportation that we have it trucks, and now for probably 5 years, Ukraine tried to implement, in Ukrainian it's ITTN, so it's electronic consignment note, that without paper you send your grain from the field till the port and everything is online. So then Ukraine use here CEFACT model, and because this is first step to ECMR project. But then in implementation, so one of our companies, software company that we were implementing ETTN, so we had, not only we, all other providers also had that problem. For example, drivers, they didn't have smartphones, or not all of them, they have smartphones, but they need to sign the document. So that was one challenge, and somehow it was solved. What to do if we need to change something in the document. So, and there are a lot of different questions. I did mistake, so here is railway transport, and for grain it's more popular because it can take more weight in each wagon compared to trucks. But the problem that CEFACT used for international railway transportation in Ukraine, but implementation in local railway consignment node, it doesn't work like that. And it's partly trying to use, and then I will show the document how to use, and will show how it works. So then maritime ports, they also use these standards, and there is implementation, and also used in Ukraine base, we have single window for our ports, then we can match the documents there, and also all documents in the port can be checked in one system for port. And about custom clearance, so already Mario mentioned that that's also World Customs Organization data model is consistent with the standard. As you remember, consistent that is overlapping the two models. So the main information are similar, that is important for supply chain. Then also Ukraine participated electronic phytosanitary certificates that also helps to implement all steps in supply chain for the transportation. And so finally, what is the main idea of that model? It's to have transformation of data sets on the corridor. So because on each of the steps we see changing of the transport, so it's mean different legislation on each of the mode of the transport, and then also we have different national law in trade. I mean, first is, for example, Ukraine, and then it will be another country that will receive that good. So about changing the transport. So it's an example of railway and consignment node. And here we see that in some documents the information, it's not data, but it's text. So, and when it's text, the computer can't understand the information, then we need the data that we can extract from that information. So we need code list of railway station that will similar to all other information. And another story, it's goods codes. That, for example, we have our internal good codes, and it could be a good example. But for example, we have customs codes that are similar to HS code, Harmonization System Code. But it's different for railways and for customs right now in Ukraine. And for example, as this is about translation of the language, how it will be in Turkish it's kabak, how it will be in in English. Kabak. No, kabak. It's pumpkin, yeah. So in Ukrainian it's the same. We have the same word kabak and kabak as Turkish language has. And for example, in this one,
what kind of kabak? We have several kabak.
Yeah, like we also have kabachok, it's like zucchini, and kabak, it's like pumpkin yellow one. As in this logic, when we see the code and just numbers, so for the system, it will be kabak and kabak, and we understand maybe it's the same language. But then, if we go with the same logic, and for example, how it will be kavun in Turkish, how it will be in English? No, melon. Melon, yes. Yeah, and so, but in Ukrainian, kavun, it's mean watermelon. So it's a different type of fruit. And the story is for computer, if they define not right language, they will use then not right code. So that's why it's super important to use the same model, then that system will understand that it's it's kabak, both in two languages, and then we can build the system and transfer the data right. Because if our system will understand that kavun is the same in Ukrainian and Turkish, finally the system wouldn't understand what tariff to use, for example, for taxation, for custom clearance. That's why, like in easy example, we understand how works language, but in numbers, yeah, what IT people do, they code in that, but they do the same that people who do translation with language, but they do this with data. So that's one of the issues with national stuff, that in different countries we have, beside international codes, in some areas we have some local codes that are not always aligned with international codes, and then the computer can't understand what is it, or it can misunderstand what is inside. So as already talked a lot about the process buy, ship, pay. So the ideal world, it will be when all participants will use one model, and then they will understand what data they transfer from each other. And also, but there is the problem, it's not about only data. Maybe for some of participants it's not interesting because it will be super transparent. And for example, if some of the participants want to change data in the process, for example, the invoice was for one, I don't know how it works in Turkey, but in some countries, the buyer and seller, they show different prices, to have less taxation in custom clearance. So for sure, in this, if we will have everything transparent, it would be impossible. And for some countries and authorities, it's not very interesting. But in general, when it will be great when we will have this transparency. We can have much faster the process in logistics, more secure, and so on. So the main idea of all what is happening in the IT world to change just transfer between participants with documents to transfer data. And data, it's meaning what is inside of each of part of the document. So and there, a lot of stuff what are doing IT people. They're trying to find the solution, how to do it easier and trust and sure. Without state, without authorities, it's impossible to do because they have to guarantee the trust to all participants because usually international trade, we're talking about international trade, it's cross-border trade, so 2 or more countries involved in that, and government and rules, it's very important part in that. So about conclusion, so the main idea is that standards have to implement in more and more countries, and then it can be work, because if it works, for example, in Ukraine, but then it doesn't work in Moldova, this optimization not very useful. What CEFACT and UNECE do, they promote the model, and as a result, I hope that soon we will have this super transparent supply chains. I hope we will still be alive and we can see that. I mean that in the future, in 20, 30 years, finally that projects will finish and applied in all countries. And also important part is legislation, and that different countries will accept and work according that. And another part is knowledge of the people in logistics, and they understand why to use electronic form of documents. For example, even yesterday we talked about FIATA bill of lading. So it's important that all of participants, for example, in Ukraine we also have that course, and some of who work in logistics, they don't really understand well how works letter of credit. And when we teach our transport companies how to work with letter of the credit, and how it's important how you issue these documents, because your client can wait for your the goods for days because there was mistake in some transport documents, and also some of clients, they don't use letter of credit because they are afraid. And when transport companies, they start to understand how to work with letter of credit, they then can be like consultant for their clients, exporter, importers, and to be near to them and show, for example, how to use FIATA bill of lading or other electronic documents in international trade. And for example, FIATA courses are provided in Turkey by UTICAT, and so if you don't have enough staff in the company who understand that, in Turkey you can learn it in Turkish in your association. But in general, all logisticians who are working in world and how we can sell, because most of freight forwarders, they don't have own vessels, they don't have own wagons, trucks, and so on. So I think that it's extra value what we can provide to our customers. It's to be this consultant in export or import and helping them how they can build this supply chain, how it can be safe, how it can be efficient, and that's how we can find the solutions and to find more clients. So that's my presentation, and one more time, thank you to Turkey for helping in that great initiative that we had.
Thank you, Inessa. I wouldn't believe that one day this green corridor will be a subject of discussion in the digitizing the environment, and which is fantastic input. And I think computer scientist has got now new terminology. If kavun is kavun, kabak is kavun, kabak in their language, it is very important. So thank you for all your explanations. We have deep dive into the digitalization, how this can be achieved in a perfect manner. I hope these discussions has triggered some ideas in your mind and some probably roadmap for your companies. And obviously there's going to be some recommendation to our ministries as well from this panel discussion. But now I would like to ask if you have any questions. Yes, please.
First of all, I would like to thank you and thank you for sharing the information and knowledge with us. Thank you. And my question is for Mario. You start your slides with a question, more than question. You said problem. Problem of fragmentation, let me read it, of digitalization, syntax, and other parts. So what is your recommendation how to solve this problem? And before your reply to me, before your answer, I want to say that if you talk about supply chain, and if you show your data pipeline in your slides, please, I kindly request you to put warehouse in your slides. If you don't put warehouses in the pipeline, your data transfer will be interrupted somewhere. This is my idea, please. Not only transportation, not only moving of the goods. Because in my professional life, I'm sure that there is no problem if the trucks move on the road. There's a problem when the goods are stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, or those questions. Well, the first thing.
Only one question.
Yeah, but the fragmentation, the solution, that was the main topic of what we were discussing. Use these semantic standards in order to connect the different existing systems. And let me come back to the example that we have here. Of course, the whole idea of digitalization of supply chains is very complicated, and we have shown this with like it's not easy to explain it in 1.5 hours. But the point is also that in order to have this digitalization, you have to have the common language. Let me give one example with the ports. Like, there are many, but let's give you the ports. The port of Baku and Mr. Zakariyya, he works for that port. They bought a system, like they hired a company from Italy to build them the IT system. The port of Aktau hired a company from St. Petersburg to build them the system. And the port of Turkmenbashi, if I'm not wrong, hired a company from Turkey. So that 3 ports cannot exchange data. And when we asked the gentleman from the Italian company, do you use the international standards? He simply laughed. But the point is kind of, these 3 systems cannot exchange. They are proprietary systems, they cannot exchange information. And the idea of what we are doing is to map the data that they have in their systems to the multimodal transport reference data model of CEFACT, and that one creates a common language. You can call it an interface, a lingua franca between the ports so that they can exchange the information. And this is the whole concept of the Trans-Caspian Corridor roadmap, to use these standards. And one simple answer, I hope, to what Mr. Erkeskin was mentioning. So, the ports of Baku and Aktau are exchanging data for their planning purposes. It's not illegal data. So maybe your question is very pertinent. The moment they start legal, like exchanging data which will have legal significance, then it becomes extremely important exactly who owns the data. Whether it's the carrier, whether it's like freight forwarder, it's a very pertinent question. But for the time being, they're exchanging data for the planning purposes of the ports. That's what they are starting to do.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. That's a very good reason actually to exchange data, to bring efficiency in their operational systems. Mm-hmm. Not that if the goods are declared in a proper way, in full amount or whatever. So thank you for this.
And the objective, of course, is further. Like sometimes when you talk about this whole affair of digitalizing a digital corridor, we're talking about a digital corridor using the UN standards for the exchange of data. We say that it's like an elephant. You can't eat one elephant at once. You have to eat it piece by piece. So these are pieces, one step after the other, and it will take time. And about the warehouses, of course, they have to be included. This is a concept. I was always thinking that these are related concepts, and to prepare a recommendation on how to build these data pipelines. But of course, Michael can speak much more on that. The idea is to collect the data from business, because business is the origin of data, collected in this pipeline, and both business partners and regulatory agencies take through valves the data that are entitled to. So the place of the warehouses along the pipeline, I would see in that way, like collecting the data from the business, and then everybody uses exactly the data to which they are entitled. And it's a complicated process, like to establish what data exactly they are entitled to.
So if you talk about supply chain, you should consider it. Otherwise, you don't say supply chain. You should say transportation.
Good. Thank you very much. So, yes. Any other question? Yes, please, from the back.
Thank you so much. It's a short question and a simpler question. So again, about the port of Baku and the data exchange program that you have taken the action. So do you have any similar activities with Turkish ports, or simpler data exchange or API integration? And also a follow-up question to Mr. Zakariyya. Like what kind of benefits did you experience so far in terms of logistics for such integration? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question, because it leads us to the purpose why we agreed with, like we were suggesting this to Mr. Erkeskin as the president of FIATA. Well, we explained the picture. In the European Union, there is this electronic freight transport information regulation, which is being implemented with a lot of difficulties. It's a difficult task. Before that, there was the Maritime Single Window Environment Regulation, which also uses the CEFACT standards, and both of them are managed by DG Move. So there is use. We, because of the activeness of several governments in Central Asia and Azerbaijan, we started this work on the roadmap for the digitalization of the Trans-Caspian corridor, piece by piece. But for us, Turkey is a bit terra not touched. So this seminar is a bit, this session is a bit of an invitation for partners here to to look into the CEFACT standards and try to use them in projects that they have. And we have heard yesterday that well, Turkish entrepreneurs are very active when they want to do something new. They get very much involved. It would be interesting to see how they would look into the use of these standards in projects that they already have. We don't have any activities with ports. Well, maybe the other CEFACT, sorry, the members of CEFACT who are also members of the International Ports and Harbors Association and the International Port Community Systems Association. Maybe they are doing something, but to the best of my knowledge, we are not. So it's more of an invitation to think and cooperate with the CEFACT community.
I think for me the homework to do is just go and visit the Turkish Port Operators Associations and bring that subject to their table and then see where do they stand and how we can progress on this. Thank you for this question. Any further questions, please? If there is no more question, then it is already a lunchtime. Jem was also, yeah, please go ahead. You want to add something?
Just for a short comment, the idea was that I suggest to the colleague from your national organization to make a webinar in Turkish language about this FT and this maritime thing. Because this can be more extended, and then, I've realized last week how good it is if a Turkish guy is talking in Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan, so in Tashkent for the same subject. Here's my proposal to you, if you like, fine, if not, up to you.
Good, thank you for the recommendation. So, lunchtime, session is over. Thank you very much for your contribution and participation. Thank you.